To prevent their own extinction and avenge the destruction of Earth's cities, humanity wages a massive war against an alien race of intelligent giant insects living on a distant, hostile planet. Humanity has long since ventured beyond its home planet, becoming a true spacefaring civilization. In colonizing distant worlds, they encountered a new form of life, creatures resembling giant spiders. Known as the arachnids, or simply bugs, their homeworld, Clendetu, lies in a remote part of the galaxy, orbiting two suns and surrounded by an asteroid belt. Despite the vast distance from Earth, these insect-like beings relentlessly bombard humanity with asteroid strikes powerful enough to wipe out entire cities. Constantly on the defensive, military forces and scientists developed advanced weaponry to protect Earth. But to secure a lasting victory, humanity must destroy Clendetu itself. When the military finally launched a ground assault on the Arachnids' planet, they were met with devastating resistance, suffering massive casualties. Forced to retreat to their spaceships, they mourned the loss of their finest soldiers. 1 year earlier, a young man named Rico sat in class, completely absorbed in drawing two portraits on his tablet, one of himself, the other of the girl sitting beside him. Behind him, another girl watched with clear affection, but Rico barely noticed her. The teacher's voice cut through the silence, trying to grab Rico's attention as he delivered a serious lesson. Only strength could get you what you truly wanted. The moment the bell rang, the student spilled out of the classroom. Rico embraced his girlfriend tightly, her eyes shining with excitement and dreams of entering the military academy to become a pilot. She suggested they check their exam results together. This was their future on the line. At the large screen, her smile widened as she saw a 97% on her math test. Rico's heart sank when his score flashed, a disappointing 35%. Carl approached, teasing Rico about his poor grade, but the joke quickly died in the air when he realized he'd gone too far. After a short break, the students head to biology class, where they dissect captured bugs. The teacher explains these Archelian bugs have surpassed humanity in many ways. They reproduce quickly, and lack selfishness, insecurity, and fear, making them perfect, selfless members of society. Then she talks about the Arachnids, a highly developed civilization that, by human standards, lacks intelligence. They're biologically perfect killers now colonizing other planets. While the teacher speaks, Rico pulls out the bugs' insides and hands them to Carmen. Seeing the organs, she can't hold back and starts to feel nauseous. Tossing them aside to the laughter of classmates, she quickly runs out of the classroom. After school, Rico goes to see Carl, who specializes in psychic sciences and can read minds and control animals. He tries to see if Rico has similar abilities, but Rico is completely devoid of any such powers. Later, there's a rugby match at school. In the final minutes, Rico dodges all the opponents and scores a touchdown. Carmen cheers for him from the stands. Suddenly, Rico notices a player from the opposing team approaching Carmen. The player tells her he's leaving tomorrow to train as a pilot, which makes Rico furious. He interrupts their conversation. Sensing Rico's jealousy, the player takes advantage, scoring for the Tigers. With only 42 seconds left in the game, Dizzy calls a last huddle and gives the final instructions. Rico asks for the ball. He's determined to snatch the win for his team. As the pause ends, Rico grabs the ball and speeds toward the opponent's end zone. In the final seconds, he secures the victory. The crowd erupts in cheers as Carmen pushes through to Rico, and they share a passionate kiss. At home, Rico is getting ready for his graduation. When his parents find out he wants to join the military, they're firmly against it. They believe his future belongs at Harvard, and see military service as nothing but pointless suicide. Desperate to change his mind, they offer him a deal, a fully paid trip, a round-the-galaxy journey along the outer rim, including his lifelong dream, the beaches of Zejima. To their surprise, their plan works, and Rico agrees. At the graduation party, Dizzy, who's clearly in love with Rico, asks him to dance. He reluctantly agrees but gently lets her know he just wants to stay friends. He's in love with Carmen. Hurt but understanding, Dizzy accepts the friendship. Later, their teacher, Mr. Raskzak, a former military man, shows up, and Rico decides to ask him for advice. After hearing him out, Raskzak tells Rico to make his own choice, without worrying about what his parents or friends expect. Just then, Carmen and Xander, an opposing team player, walk in. Rico isn't happy about the encounter but pulls Carmen onto the dance floor and tells her he's decided to enlist as well. The next day, Carmen, Rico, and Carl head to enlist. Carmen is accepted as a pilot, Carl joins military intelligence, and Johnny goes into infantry. After getting their assignments, Carmen suggests they promise to stay friends no matter what happens. The guys like the idea, and the three of them put their hands together, sealing an unspoken pact. Back home, Rico packs his bags amid his parents' protests. They thought they'd finally convinced him otherwise. Seeing that their efforts have failed, his father resorts to one last threat. If Rico leaves, he'll lose all inheritance and financial support. But Rico stands his ground. He's joining the military for his own reasons, to follow his ideals and gain citizenship, not for a girl, as his mother believes. With that, he says goodbye. Later, Rico arrives at the station to see Carmen off to the pilot academy. Before she leaves, she shyly confesses her love for him. They promise to keep in constant contact and share everything. Meanwhile, the news reports on Mormon extremists who have founded a settlement deep within the quarantine zone, with around 300 people. But the arachnids have also targeted the planet and wiped out the entire settlement. Rico arrives at the infantry training base. The training kicks off with drill practice led by Sergeant Zemo, a tough and demanding instructor who insists on strict discipline and obedience. To Rico's surprise, Dizzy is transferred to his unit. He's certain it's no coincidence and decides to keep his distance. Rico trains intensely, excelling in every discipline. After practice, the guys open up about why they joined the military. Some want to escape poverty, others want to enter politics or start families, things that require citizenship. But Rico keeps his reasons to himself. Carmen receives a video message from Rico. He tells her everything that's happening at the training camp. Just as she finishes watching, she's called to the pilot's cabin. They're about to take off. After brilliantly passing all her tests, Carmen is assigned to an internship on the battleship Roger Young, commanded by Captain De La Gere. To her surprise, her instructor turns out to be Xander. Meanwhile, Rico continues his training. During one exercise, a team battle breaks out. Rico and Dizzy are on the same side. Remembering their rugby games, they decide to use one of those tactics and manage to defeat the opposing team. His success catches the commander's attention, and Rico is promoted to platoon leader. That evening, Rico admits to Dizzy that he's learned a lot from her and suggests they be friends again. Shortly after, the mail arrives. Rico immediately opens a video from Carmen and realizes she's breaking up with him, explaining that their career paths are too different. Turning off the message, he sadly confesses to his friends that he joined the military just for her. A little later, during an infantry training exercise, a tragic accident occurs. Because of a command error from Rico, one soldier removes his helmet, and at that moment, another recruit accidentally fires a shot. The soldier is killed. Rico is held responsible for the incident, and the recruit writes a resignation letter. Fearing the loss of another trainee, the leadership doesn't discharge Rico but demotes him and punishes him publicly. He's flogged in front of the entire unit. Meanwhile, Carmen and Xander are piloting the battleship. Suddenly, they spot something unusual, and seconds later realize it's a massive asteroid. It appears out of nowhere, but miraculously, they manage to avoid a collision at the last second. However, the ship's communication system is damaged. After calculating the asteroid's trajectory, the captain realizes it's headed straight for Earth, and they have no way to warn anyone. Rico decides to leave the military and contacts his parents to come home, but the call cuts off abruptly. That same day, news breaks that an asteroid has struck Earth. It wasn't an accident. The meteor was launched from the Klendathu system. The arachnids exploited the gravity of the binary suns and the dense asteroid belt to direct deadly debris at planets. Buenos Aires, where Rico grew up, was wiped off the map. Over 8 million people died, including his parents. The Federation Council issues a decree for full mobilization and the total extermination of the arachnid race. Sergeant Zemo immediately requests to be sent to fight, but the major insists he stay. If he's so eager for battle, he can only do it as a private. After the devastating news, Rico goes to his superiors and refuses to quit. He decides to stay in the service, now completely free of illusions. Federal news broadcasts show soldiers and civilians clearing the wreckage, while public hatred for the arachnids reaches a fever pitch. In Geneva, the Federation Council held an emergency session, calling for the complete annihilation of the insect race. Meanwhile, Space Force Marshal Deans announced a planned assault on Klendathu. Federation scientists continue to develop new, increasingly ruthless methods to kill the bugs. In one report, Carl advises targeting the insect's nervous systems, calling it the most effective way to eliminate the enemy. A live broadcast comes from the Ticonderoga combat garrison, deep inside the arachnid quarantine zone, where brave federal troops prepare for the attack. The reporter interviews several soldiers who are fired up and ready to fight. They're determined to avenge their fallen loved ones. Later, at the station, Rico runs into Carmen. Their conversation quickly turns tense and unfriendly. Things take a turn for the worse when Xander arrives. The pilot throws insults at an infantryman, sparking a fight. It takes a lot of effort to pull the two apart. Dizzy clings to Rico, trying to calm him down, reminding him that infantry and navy don't mix well. Trying to refocus, Rico and his friends get matching tattoos as a symbol of unity and victory. A massive fleet approaches Klendathu. The first offensive has begun. Infantry troops land on the planet's surface. After successfully repelling the initial arachnid counterattack, the soldiers push forward. But soon, they realize the odds are overwhelmingly against them. The arachnids repel every attack, both on the ground and in the air. The platoon leader, Ace, loses his composure and panics. Seeing this, Rico takes command. After suffering heavy losses, including a journalist and cameraman, the human forces begin to retreat under the relentless arachnid assault. Covering his comrades, Rico falls behind, surrounded by enemies, unable to fend them all off. Moments later, one of the bugs wounds him in the leg. Rico has no strength left to fight. He's doomed. The Federal News airs horrifying footage after the arachnid massacre. The military admits they seriously underestimated the bug's defenses. Space Force Marshal Deans takes full responsibility and resigns, handing command over to Marshal Tahat Marrow. The new commander proposes a different strategy. They need to study these creatures thoroughly to find a way to win. Federation scientists search for answers about the arachnids' battle tactics. Some believe highly intelligent arachnids are controlling the rest. Meanwhile, the remnants of the fleet and infantry return to Ticonderoga, including survivors Carmen and Xander. Entering the medical bay, Carmen sees countless wounded soldiers. At a computer terminal, she looks up Rico's name, and sees him listed among the dead. The truth hits her hard, she's lost him forever. Meanwhile, Rico's friends come to check on him. He's still mistakenly listed as dead. In reality, he suffered a severe injury and is recovering inside a special medical capsule. After a few days, the doctors promise he'll be discharged soon. Once he's back on his feet, Rico, Dizzy, and Ace are transferred to an elite squad called the Cutthroats. Their arrival isn't exactly welcomed with open arms. These are serious, no-nonsense soldiers who don't tolerate jokes about their commander. After all, he saved the life of every single person in the unit. Just then, the lieutenant himself appears. It's Raskzak, Rico's former schoolteacher. They're given a new mission: wipe out the arachnids on every planet. Their first target is Tango Eurelia. The air fleet will lead the initial strike, followed by the Cutthroats finishing off any survivors. On the planet, the pilots execute the plan perfectly, raining fire down from the skies on the bugs. Then the Cutthroats move in. They take out lone creatures, find several nests, and plant explosives inside. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shakes and collapses, and out crawls a massive tanker bug. To their shock, it can shoot fire, catching several soldiers in its blast. Rico realizes this beast can't be killed with just rifles. Seizing the moment, he leaps onto the creature's back. There, he fires a hole into its shell and stuffs a grenade inside. The plan works perfectly. The explosion tears the monster apart into pieces, killing it instantly. Lieutenant Raskzak is impressed with the move and promotes Rico to corporal. Elated, Rico immediately appoints Dizzy as squad leader. That evening, the Cutthroats commander throws a party to celebrate their successful operation. He notices Dizzy's feelings for Rico and advises Rico not to miss his chance. After a moment's thought, the corporal takes the advice and asks Dizzy to dance. That night, they finally grow closer and decide to slip away to their tent. Their intimacy is abruptly interrupted by Raskzak, who announces a new operation briefing in 10 minutes. But seeing Rico isn't alone, he grants them an extra 10 minutes. On the next planet, the lieutenant and his squad try to contact Whiskey Outpost. As they move forward, Rico spots some movement in the mountains but shrugs it off. When they fail to get a response from the general, the commander orders a sergeant to climb higher to try and catch the signal. Suddenly, a huge flying insect grabs the sergeant. Knowing there's no way to save him, Raskzak delivers a precise shot, ending the soldier's life quickly and mercifully. He hopes that if something like this happens to any of his men, they'll do the same for each other. Some time later, the Cutthroats arrive at the outpost, and what they find shocks them. Blood and bodies are everywhere. The lieutenant orders his team to clear and identify the dead, set up defenses, and call for a starship extraction. While searching the facility, they discover a hatch, the entry point the arachnids used for the attack. Near the comms gear, they find a soldier's corpse with his brain completely drained, a scene unlike anything they've encountered before. Suddenly, a strange noise comes from the refrigerator. When they open it, a living general falls out. The man is hysterical and incoherent. From him, the team learns the outpost never sent an SOS signal. It was a bug's doing. The insect forced a soldier to send the distress call just before draining his brain. These arachnids are highly advanced and are studying humans too. Raskzak orders Dizzy to contact headquarters immediately, while the rest prepare to face the incoming attack. The defense line was set, and the soldiers fired desperately at the overwhelming hordes of arachnoids, but their numbers kept swelling. Fighting with fierce, heroic desperation, they battled for their very survival. Finally, Dizzy managed to establish a connection and call in the spaceship. Now, all they had to do was hold out until it arrived, and stay alive. Swarms of bugs poured in from every direction. Flying arachnoids joined the ground forces, intensifying the assault. The squad couldn't hold the line. One soldier after another fell. But just when hope was fading, the starship appeared overhead. Suddenly, the earth beneath their feet began to tremble, and massive slabs of ground collapsed, dragging Raskzak down into the depths. Rico and Dizzy rushed to his side, but it was too late. The subterranean beast had already torn off the lieutenant's legs. Raskzak begged Rico to keep his promise. With a heavy heart, Rico pulled the trigger, granting his commander a swift and merciful death. Almost immediately, a colossal tank beetle emerged from the crater. Without hesitation, Rico lobbed a grenade straight into its gaping maw, obliterating the beast in a violent explosion. Now, Rico was in command. He ordered the squad to board the starship, but Dizzy wasn't moving. She hadn't seen the creature sneaking up behind her, and the arachnoid's attack left her grievously wounded. The team fought it off, but it was too late. She died in Rico's arms as the ship lifted them away from the deadly trap the arachnoids had set. After takeoff, Xander returned to the pilot's cabin with Carmen. He told her the unbelievable news: Rico was alive and now flying with them. Disbelieving, Carmen turned, and there he was. At that moment, Rico strode up to the pilots and demanded they contact headquarters and order a strike to bomb the planet. He had taken command, and this was his order. Headquarters refused, saying they had other plans for Planet Pi. Furious, Rico slammed his fist. The cost had been too high, too many friends lost. Carmen tried to calm him, explaining the fleet was preparing for a major operation and the details would come later. At Dizzy's funeral, Rico delivered a heartfelt farewell, saluting their fallen comrade. Carmen stood among the troops. There, Rico ran into Carl, now a high-ranking intelligence officer. Carl dropped heavy news. They had known about the trap and deliberately sent the squad, even knowing escape was nearly impossible. He expressed regret that the Razorbacks had been sacrificed, but said there was no alternative. Reports suggested intelligent arachnoids existed on the planet. They needed proof. Now, the mission was to return to Pi and capture one of their brains alive. Using his new rank as colonel, Carl appointed Rico commander of the Razorbacks. The military readied for a new operation. Fresh recruits joined the Razorbacks, and Rico chuckled, calling them veterans already. He issued battle orders and sent everyone to their posts. Meanwhile, the arachnoids launched a fierce attack on the human fleet. A plasma blast tore through Carmen and Xander's ship. The cruiser Roger Young split in two, killing many crew instantly. The pilots fought desperately to reach the escape pods. Carmen and Xander made it, but the captain was crushed by Clinket doors, torn apart. Knowing there was no saving her, Xander scooped up Carmen and sprinted through the crumbling wreckage toward the pods. At the last second, they evacuated, and the cruiser exploded in a fireball behind them. Ace gets a radio message that the Roger Young has been shot down. He immediately relays the news to Rico. At that moment, Rico's radio crackles to life. He hears Carmen's voice. She's sending an emergency landing request, which means she survived. As they approach Planet Pi, Carmen loses control of the capsule. It crashes against a cliff edge and plunges down, bursting through an underground tunnel. Once outside, the friends realize they're in the heart of the arachnoid's lair. Rico contacts Carmen, pinpoints her coordinates, and sets out to rescue her. In the next instant, Carmen spots the advancing bugs. They're closing in from every direction. Without hesitation, she and Xander grab their weapons and fight back as best they can. But the swarm is overwhelming. The insects first injure Xander, then Carmen. Rico listens over the radio, helpless as the situation unfolds. He knows there's nothing he can do. Meanwhile, Carmen and Xander are still alive. For some reason, the creatures want them alive too, and that raises alarms. Deeper underground, the Razorbacks search the tunnels for the brain bug. Suddenly, the bug seems to sense something and stops. Rico realizes Carmen is still alive and discovers a path leading to her. He orders his soldiers to regroup with a battalion, while he, with a few volunteers, heads off to find Carmen. Meanwhile, Xander and Carmen try to make sense of what's happening. Quietly, Xander slips a knife to Carmen, who hides it in the sand. Suddenly, a huge bug, unlike any they've seen before, emerges from the cave. This grotesque creature, covered in countless eyes, slowly crawls toward them. Then it lashes out with a long, sharp proboscis, piercing Xander's skull. Frozen with horror, Carmen watches as the creature drains her partner's brain. Next, the bug turns toward her, but Carmen manages to slice off its proboscis with a knife. The insects roar in fury, but something holds them back. At that moment, Rico appears, threatening the arachnoid with a nuclear grenade. The creature recoils, terrified. Ace quickly relays the brain bug's coordinates to headquarters. Not daring to turn their backs on the insects, the squad slowly retreats deeper into the tunnel. But the bugs decide to attack. After being seriously wounded by one of the creatures, Watkins makes a desperate choice. He sacrifices himself. He grabs a grenade from the commander and orders the others to escape. As the squad disappears from sight, he detonates the explosives, taking the arachnoids with him. When the friends emerge on the surface, they're met with cheers. Another squad captured the brain bug alive and brought it out. Colonel Carl is there nearby. Using his telepathy, he senses the creature's fear. Approaching Rico and Carmen, Carl expressed his joy at seeing them both alive. He was especially glad Carmen had survived. Looking intently at his former classmate, Rico asked if Carl had helped him with his telepathy. Carl just joked it was a military secret. The colonel was confident that now they finally had a real chance to win. They would study the bug, the way it thinks, how its brain works, and how to defeat it. Someday, this war would come to an end. Joining the celebrations, Rico ran into Sergeant Zim, the man who had captured the arachnoid. But now, due to some twist of fate, Zim was no longer a sergeant but a private. With the creature secured in their labs, scientists began studying and experimenting, determined to unravel its mysteries. Meanwhile, the Federation released a propaganda video presenting Rico, Carmen, and Ace as exemplary soldiers and true heroes of the service, resilient, brave, and dedicated. Against the backdrop of their victory over the brain bug, the video emphasized that the Army's success belonged to everyone, and that anyone could contribute. It highlighted that service was not only a duty but also a path to a better life. Those who joined the military were promised citizenship and all the associated social benefits. The video ended with a call for new recruits, reminding viewers that the war against the bugs was far from over. Would you willingly join the military if it was the only way to earn your rights and status in society? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.